before the purge begins. All of us in matching uniforms on fleets of white buses being shepherded through the desert haze to auditoriums where we would sit locked up together for an hour surrounded by stopwatch-wielding officials. Debating left me with an attitude to persuasion that was as precise as Euclidean geometry. Find the foundation. Show why it's wrong. Buttress analysis with evidence. Emotion is for decorative flourishes only. Do not expect it to be load-bearing. Of course, I knew you could change minds by appealing to things like emotion or your opponent's sense of self. But doing that seemed kind of base. It felt nobly sportsmanlike to arm yourself with argument alone. It was the intellectual equivalent of turning up at dawn for your duel. It was how you were meant to fight. I began changing my mind about this picture after I made a piece for US radio program This American Life in 2016. The project had seemed simple. Turn around to my own catcallers, men who had wolf-whistled or made sexual comments on the street, and try to reason them out of doing it again. I spent hours giving these men all the evidence, all the reasoning, all the fancy footwork with premises. But in dozens of conversations, I walked away defeated. Over and over again, they walked away from our conversations as sure as they'd ever been that it was okay to grab, yell at, or follow women on the street. These men didn't seem fundamentally irrational or unstuck from reality. In a funny sort of way, I quite liked a few of them. One told me he modelled his courtship rituals on the animal kingdom. "I'm just another paradise bird, flaunting my shit," he said triumphantly, as though this explained everything that needed to be explained. That's a good line. He made me laugh. But I couldn't change their minds. The experience deflated me, not just as a person and as a woman, but as someone who had always been optimistic about our ability to talk each other into better beliefs. We finished recording in November 2016, right after the US general election, and it was not a good moment to be suddenly pessimistic about rational debate and persuasion. But when the piece aired, a strange thing happened. I was inundated with interview requests. Could I write a 10-step guide to changing minds? Would I accept an award for the successful use of rational persuasion in public? What advice did I have for talking people out of workplace harassment? I was astonished. Large numbers of people had apparently listened to the conversations that I had walked away from feeling dejected and defeated, and heard instead instances of persuasive success. I think the explanation is that these conversations bore a sort of waxwork-like resemblance to what we think good mind changers look like. I said one thing, my catcallers said the opposite thing, and each of us tried to explain why we were right. I had stayed calm. They had been prepared to hear me out. I had used statistics. It looked, for all the world, like a rational debate. And the fact that I had failed to achieve anything with this approach to changing minds disappeared under the shadow of the unquestioned assumption that I deserved congratulations for even trying. I started to smell a rat, a big one that lives in the sewers and never takes a shower. Every